said, Richard, I was with you when you had nothing. I ain't leaving now. So I will be there until the day I die. So, you know, when it comes to leadership, I believe there's two types of leaders. And I've had both. You're going to have to determine which one you are. And I say the first one is the leadership of the Pharaoh and the leadership of the deliverer. What's the leadership of the Pharaoh? Well, keep in mind, what do pharaohs do? They take people captive to build everything in their image. Everything looks like them, everything is about them, everything is them. Then there's the leadership of the deliverer. What do? They come into your life to help deliver you to be everything that you are intended to be. I've had both. You know, I want you to know that I am a student of the etymology of words. I study one word for months. I don't do a Google search, I study it. I study the Greek, I study the Latin, I study the Hebrew, French, Spanish, and English. And I've found out that it's good to know words so you can understand. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is, every leader has to have ideas just flowing through them. You cannot be a leader if you're not somebody who's an idea. And one time the question was asked to the greatest minds of that day, which were the Greek philosophers. And this question came to the Greeks, and they said this: pay attention. Some of this stuff you should be writing down because you don't want to leave the same way you came. I tell people, I'm not trying to make money. I already got money. I'm trying to help other people make money. So they asked him this question. They said, what is an idea? See, the Greeks are the ones that invented the word idea. And the Greek philosophers said this, which is incredible. They said this: an idea is that thing in the mind of God. What? An idea is that thing in the mind of God. What are they saying? Were they being religious? No. They were saying that ideas are hidden in special places, in a different dimension. You see, you and I, we live in the 3D. Ideas live in the 4D. Ideas live in a place where you can't see them. This conference was first an idea. The chair you were sitting on was first an idea. And the thing about things that are created, you know that everything in this world that was ever created came from something that was old. So nothing is really new. When man wanted a chair, he saw the tree. He saw the chair inside the tree. Hold it out. Everything has come from the dirt. The cars, jewelry, everything comes, it's already here. That's what I'm saying. You have to be a visionary. You have to have the ability to look into the 4D. I've had 50,000 employees, and I used to tell my employees, don't bring me ideas everyone can see. Tap into the unseen and bring it and make it a reality. You see, and especially like coming from the hood, coming from places that you and I come from, coming from a different language, a different culture, guess what? You and I, we can see things that they can't. Hot Cheetos was always there, but they couldn't see it. I saw it. Two types of leaders are either a pharaoh or a deliverer. I've had both. Ideas come from where? The 4D, the mind of God. Hidden in places, different places. You gotta go seek them. So let me share my story. Now my story is your story, okay? This is your uncle's story, your dad's story, or your story. So I'm gonna take you back to the 60s. And a lot of times I've said this. Many times in order to find your future, you have to revisit your past. There is nothing wrong with your past, good or bad. Your past is the pillar to help sustain your future. I will never take a test to determine my intelligence level. You cannot determine how smart I am by your test. This is what they did to you and I. They gave us the test, and we got a C. So they said, you are a C student, you're an average student. All that C meant was you don't have a very good memory. High IQs mean you have a good memory. You lock everything, but it doesn't mean you're smarter than anybody else. So some of you need to let that C go that you took 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You're not a C student. There's nothing average about you. You're so smart that they can't determine. There is no metrics to determine how smart you are. But you see, they want to use their metrics. It's in a box. Why? Because they can control you in that box. So you know what you can do with that C? You know what you can do with that C? I'm not going to tell you, but you can think it. You can do that. And guess what? When I became an executive, I used to tell HR, I ain't taking that test. How am I going to take I'm a bird. How am I going to take a test that's made for a fish? Make a test designed for Latinos that come from the hood. And you'll see how smart I am. So, your path is part of your future. So let's go back to my path. Now, I was a kid during the civil rights movement of the 60s. Wasn't old enough to have an impact in the movement, but I was old enough the movement had an impact on me. I was born in a small town called Guasti, California. It's actually where Ontario Airport is. Everybody there, it was a wine town. My grandpa picked grapes, my dad picked grapes, I picked the little grapes. There was 10 of us. My mom and dad had 10 kids. We lived in a one-room. It was more like a barracks. The kitchens were outside, like a restaurant. The bathrooms were down the hallways, like the school. So every morning I had breakfast with 10 families. Then one day, Mama's getting her oldest son ready for school, which is me. I'm the second oldest of 10 kids. And here's how the story goes. She's helping me get dressed. Remember, it's the 60s. She's helping me get dressed. And I'm crying. And Mama says, Chillon, ¿por qué lloras? Cry, baby, why are you crying? Porque no quiero ir a esa escuela. Because I don't want to go to that school. ¿Por qué no, mijo? Why not, son? Porque todos hablan inglés. Because everybody speaks English. I was being bused from an all-speaking Spanish school to a white school, all English. And I told my mom, how can you send me to a school where I can hardly speak English? People tell me today, Richard, you can still hardly speak English. And Mama said it's the law. Not a commercial. So my deal took me to the corner. They picked 8 kids from this. The community was small. It was about 2,000 people there. And they're taking me to see. I'm arguing with my deal, and I'm telling him, why do I have to go? And he's telling me, it's the law. You have to go. So there was about 8 of us, and we were nervous, right? So here comes the yellow bus. There goes the yellow bus. It didn't stop. You should have seen 8 happy kids. And everybody's wondering, how come it didn't stop? And I told my tío, I know why. He said, why? I go, it's a Latino holiday. We don't have to go to school today. And he said, no. So all of a sudden, I heard an explosion, like a tractor. I turned around, I looked, and I saw the ugliest green bus you can imagine. And I saw that ugly green thing, and I told my uncle, I don't want to get on that ugly thing. I want to ride the yellow bus. I want to ride the yellow bus. I want to be like those kids. Why do I got to get on this ugly thing? It wasn't until years later. Sometimes you got to revisit your path to find your future. It wasn't until years later that I was an adult. It just dawned on me. It just came out of nowhere. One day I just thinking, I said, oh, you know what? That was society of the day and time saying, let's take this group of kids, put them on this ugly green bus, parade them across town so everybody can see, guess what? These kids here, they're not good enough to ride the yellow bus. They're not good enough to be like, well, as a child, you take that on. So we get to school, you know, we're trying to listen to the teacher, having a hard time understanding, but there's one sound that I always say that every child knows this sound. You know what that sound was? The sound of the recess bell. I didn't need an interpreter for that. I knew that I was lunchtime. And the truth, it was a relief. So we went, we got our lunch, and the 8 of us, we stayed together. You know, use your imagination. It's a school lunch. I don't remember how many kids were out there. I was too nervous, but we stayed together. And I pulled my lunch out, ready to take a bite. Everybody's staring at me. So I grabbed my lunch and I put it back in the bag. Why do you think everybody was staring at me? It was a burrito. You gotta remember this. It was 1962. The world hadn't seen a burrito yet. Contrary to popular belief, Taco Bell didn't introduce the burrito to the world. Me and my mom did. But the truth, listen to me. The truth, I was embarrassed of who I was. I was embarrassed because I rode that green bus. I was embarrassed because my English was bad. I was embarrassed because everybody was staring at my lunch. That I remember I put it back in the bag and I went home and my mom's washing dishes and I remember I'm yelling at my mom. And you know, you don't yell at the Latina, right? That's your first mistake. But she let me slide. And I said, Mama, hazme un bologna sandwich con un cupcake como los otros. Mama, make me a bologna sandwich and a cupcake like the other kids. Because I don't want to be different. I want to be like Bobby. I want to be like Johnny. I don't want to be different. But Mama, leadership of a woman, she's a genius. She said, no, Milo, this is who you are. So the next day she made me 2 burritos. And she said, here's one for you, and here's one to share with a friend. So Wednesday, I had my burrito nightmare. Thursday, I shared a burrito with a friend. Friday, I was selling burritos for 25 cents a piece. Listen, as a child, as a boy, that was my first revelation. Here's what I want you to get. If you have kids, I want you to tell your kids this every day. What was my first revelation that was going to create a revolution? What's a revelation? Something that was always there, but it's been revealed to you. My first revelation was this. As much as I wanted to be like them, as much as I wanted to fit in, I realized I was never created to fit in. I was always created to stand out. None of you were ever created to fit in. You were all created to stand out. That's why you can look back on your life wondering, how come I've never been able to fit in at school, at work? Because you're not intended to fit in. You are intended to stand out. So that was my first revelation. So I tell people this all the time. I'm probably the most uneducated, brilliant person you will ever meet. So I did something I'm not proud of. I quit school. I went to work. I worked at a chicken ranch. I was a gardener. And then I worked at a car wash. I remember I'm washing cars and my friend rolled up and he's wearing a uniform that says Frito-Lay. And I said, hey, did you get a job? He said, I got a job at Frito-Lay. He goes, go apply, they're hiring. I saw this. Frito-Lay. Wow. I just think if I could get a job at Frito-Lay, they have benefits, health insurance. If you're like me, you didn't have health insurance. My mama said, here's Vicks and a 7-Up. We don't got no health insurance. They got health insurance. I can finally make something more than minimum wage. You know what I saw? I saw opportunity. You see, many times you see opportunity, but your friends come and knock it out of you. I was excited about getting a factory job. Should you be excited about a factory job? I just needed to get in the door. So I remember I went and I applied. And at the time, I could barely read and write. That's a true story. I've written 2 books, 2 bestsellers, so I didn't stay there, okay? Whenever I talk about something, you gotta understand, I didn't stay there. So I got the application. And I asked the HR manager if I could bring it back. I didn't want to tell him I couldn't write. He goes, yeah, sure, we'll bring it tomorrow. And I took it home. And my inspiration, Judy, she filled it out for me. She said, here, you know, I always say this, when you're going to roll with somebody and a spouse, make sure it's somebody that can roll with you. Judy's from the hood, too. When it comes to certain things, she don't play, but she's learned. You know, I told people, hey, I can take this tie off. Don't let it fool you. I can take it out. We can go outside and talk if you want. And Judy will come and say, oh, no, we're not like that no more, Ricky. Hold on. We're not like that no more. So she filled it out for me. And she said, you're going to get this job. My best cheerleader. So I went and I gave it to the manager. And I was so nervous because he looked at it, he looked at me, he looked at it again, looked at me and said, did you fill this out? I said, yes. He goes, you have nice handwriting. I've been taking Judy's credit ever since. That was 1976. You know what I thank God for in 1976? A lot of things, but one thing in particular. You know what that was? They didn't do background checks in those days. I got a job on the spot. So I went to tell my dad and my grandpa, the labor camp. I told him, hey, I got the job. My grandfather said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm the janitor. I'm going to mop the floor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my grandpa told me something many years ago that I believe it's one of the reasons I was successful. He said this, when you mop that floor, you make sure it shines. And when people see it, they know that a Montanez mopped it. He was telling me what I'm about to tell you. That everything you do it for your last name. I love Pepsi and Frito-Lay, but ladies and gentlemen, it was never about them. It was about my last name. It was about the legacy I was going to leave my children. I wanted that name to mean something, you know? So I got the job, and I was mopping. And I saw this. You know, be careful for what you read and hear, because it's harder to get it out than it is to get it out in. And you heard many times that it's an old terrible quote that isn't true. You get promoted by who you know. It's not true. You get promoted by who knows you. You can say you know the CEO all you want, but if she or he doesn't know you, you know that I've had lunch or dinner with every U.S. president since Ronald Reagan. Every president except one. You get promoted by who knows you. And another one is this. You are called to influence the world. No, you're not. I'm not trying to influence everyone. I'm not trying to be a man of influence. What am I trying to do? I'm not trying to influence everyone. I'm trying to influence the right ones. Because when it's the right ones, it works both ways. If they don't get you, move on. You don't have time. There's somebody out there waiting for your influence. Move on. I'm a salesman. I sold millions of dollars in contracts at one time. And if my customers didn't get it, you know what? I tell them, well, you know what? If you don't want it, I'm going to so-and-so. Oh, no, stay here. We want it. I wasn't trying to influence everyone, only the right ones. Don't waste your time on people who are wasting your time. There's somebody out there waiting for you. There's somebody out there waiting for you to be a blessing to you and so that you can be a blessing. Don't influence everyone, only the right ones. Remember that. So I got the job and I'm mopping and I saw that, guess what? I was influencing so many people without saying one word. My co-workers were walking into the bathrooms and the bathrooms were spotless and they smelled clean. They were going into the lunchrooms were spotless. The managers were coming in the morning, walking in their offices. Who cleaned my office? How was I influencing them? I put a smile on them without saying one word. So everybody was saying, who cleaned the bathroom? Who cleaned the break room? Who cleaned my office? That new janitor, Montanez? That's why I'm saying, you do it for your last name. You don't do it for them. Sure, the compensation is great and all that, but if you're doing it for the compensation, you're going to tap out. Because once the compensation doesn't get good, guess what? You're no good. I've had young people come up to me. Mr. Montanez, please give me that promotion. If you give me that promotion, I will work so hard for you. You're not working hard for me now? Do it for your last name. Mr. Montanez, I had a great year. Well, we pay you to have a great year. Think about that. You're never paid to do a bad job. You're paid to do a great job. Show me something that you did that you didn't get paid to do. Then I'm going to say, oh, that person is a keeper. Put that person on my team. You see what she did? She's an entrepreneur. She did something she wasn't paid to do. She's a visionary. See, you and I are visionaries. The problem with being a visionary, we're 5 years ahead of everyone. We have to have patience to let them to catch up. When they finally catch up, guess what? We're another 5 years ahead of them. Have patience. So what happened one day? They shut the plant down. Now, if you know anything about operations, they shut the plant down across the world. Because Frito-Lay wasn't doing good, so I thought, oh man, we're going to get laid off. And I just got going, oh man. So we were nervous, and the communication in those days was either a fact, there was no email, it was either a fact, or they would send a video. So they shut it down, they brought everybody in, and they put this video on, we're all looking at it, and there's a new CEO. And he tells us the truth. He says, Frito-Lay is losing sales, and we need to fix this company. And he said this, my executives can't fix it. So I'm asking you to help me. I'm giving you permission to think like a CEO. I heard that as a janitor. What's the first thing that my coworkers heard? He's not talking to you. He's not talking, that's a corporate thing. I'm this way. Didn't you just hear what he said? That's the CEO. He said we all get to act like owners. When are you going to get that opportunity? Again, you got to take opportunity. You got to create it. Regardless of what the people around you said. I said, you know what? You guys do whatever you want. I did what I've been doing my whole life. I broke ranks. And I went home and I told Judy, hey, Judy, this new CEO said act like an owner. And she said, well, then act like an owner. I didn't know what that meant. So the next day, I went, right next to the plant was the sales office. I went to the sales office and I saw a salesman. And I went to him and I said, hey, can I go with you on my day off? I'll do all the work. I just want you to teach me the business. He said, yeah, come 5 o'clock in the morning. So on my day off, I met him at 5 in the morning. He taught me how to load the truck up so that we could maximize the space. He taught me how to run a route so we could minimize our time and the fuel. Then when we got to the store, he taught me how to merchandise. Every product is at a point for a reason. This shop for a reason, this shop for a reason. And he taught me how to fluff up the bag when I put it in there. About the third store, this is what I saw at every store, okay? This is, half of you weren't even born. Lay's, Ruffles, Fritos. Lay's, Ruffles, Fritos. The third store, Lay's, Ruffles, Fritos. I looked. I saw it. Saw what? A revelation. What's a revelation? Something that was always there. Something that was going to create a revolution in my life and my company. And I looked at him. He couldn't see it. You know why he couldn't see it? He was an expert. Don't become such an expert that you can't see things no more. You have an idea, don't take it to the expert. The expert will say this, oh, we tried that already. Well, no, that's not going to work. Just go do it. So I didn't tell him. What did I see? This is the truth. I saw the spice rack. I saw the bags of cheese, the little bottles. And I saw people buying, and I was just like, Lay's, Ruffles, Fritos, spice. Lay's, Ruffles, Fritos, spice. Like, we don't have no spices. So I went back. Judy's a great cook. I went back and I told Judy, hey Judy, we're gonna make a spicy chip. She's my partner. She said, okay, let's do it. What are you gonna put it on? I don't know. I really didn't know what I was gonna put it on. So every Friday we'd go to the same grocery store because I got my check. And I'd go to that neighborhood store and buy our groceries because he would cash my check. And people say, well, how come you didn't have a bank account? I didn't have no money. What do I need a bank for? So he knew me, right? So he'd cash my check. I'd get my groceries. And every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever day we went, outside there was a young man with his wife and 2 girls. And he was selling elotes. Now, he was doing it before it was popular. He was doing it before you saw it at the fair. He was one of the first. Now, nobody ever told him, hey, you're just a street vendor. Because he stood there dressed real clean, his family real clean. He acted like he was running a 5-star restaurant. It was about his last name. And he'd always tell me, hey, Señor, ¿cómo estás? Yeah, let me have 2, one for me and my son. Con todo, yeah, put everything on it. Back then it was $1, right? They put everything on it, and, I gave one to my oldest son, and I got one, and I took a bite. Revelation. What's a revelation? You're going to remember this. Something that was always there, but it's been unveiled to you. Took a bite. That looks like a Cheeto. What if I put chili on a Cheeto? I said something every great leader has to say in their life. If you haven't said it, you need to say this. What was that? What if? What if I try my idea? What if I go to that conference? What if I tell them about this? What if? Changes your life. What if I put chili on a Cheeto? So I went inside and I told Judy, get your chili ready. We're going to put it on Cheetos. She said, okay, tomorrow bring some Cheetos with no cheese. So the next day I went to work and I got a trash bag and I put a bunch of Cheetos in there. They were all white. They had no cheese yet. I got a trash bag and everybody looking at me like, what's he doing? I told you I was ghetto. But ghetto rich. So I brought it home and it took us a little while. See, innovation and ingenuity, remember this can come from anywhere. Especially if you're a person that comes from a different culture, you can see things that other people can't see. So we mixed it around and finally we got it. She said, take some to your work. She took some, we came back, everybody loved it. She said, okay, you gotta call the CEO. I I said, what? She goes, you have to call. Everybody's saying call the CEO. Richard, I want you to call the CEO. That's what Judy said. Now, keep in mind, this is during when corporate America is the command and control. What is a command and control? Exactly that. I didn't hire you to think. I hired you to do what I tell you to do. That was command and control. So the next day I went, and again, there's no email. Everything is on a phone book. Corporate directors, everybody. They still use them, but not as much. And I asked the secretary if I could use it. Secretaries were all in one room in those days. And I said, can I use the phone? She started yelling at me. She said, no, this is not for personal use. What else would I'm the janitor, what else would I be using the phone for if it wasn't personal? And I said, no, I'm going to call the CEO. And she said, oh, use mine. And while I was dialing, she was getting an audience. She said, he's going to call the CEO. He's going to get fired. Come watch it, guy. That's the truth. Command and control. Only a president would call the CEO. I'm not trying to influence everyone, only the right ones. If I make the phone call, and Patty, his executive assistant, my friend today, she retired many years ago, picked up the phone. And I said, hi, this is Richard Montanez. Can I talk to the CEO? She said, oh, what area do you run? Because I don't recognize the name. Only a president would call the CEO in those days, even in today's day. And I said, no, I work in California. She said, oh, okay, you're the president of California? No, I work in Southern California. Oh, you're the vice president of Southern California? No, I work in the plants. And she said, oh, you're the vice president of operations? I said, no, I work inside. She said, are you the plant manager, plant director? No, she said, what are you? I'm a maintenance utility. I said, hey, don't hang up. I saw Mr. Enrico's video. And by the way, I was employee of the month 2 months in a row. And that's true, I was. So I created a season. And she said, hang on. I'm not trying to influence everyone, only the right ones. She was the first right one. Because when Mr. Enrico got on the phone, he was so excited. He said, Richard, I really got an idea for me. I can't wait to try it. I can't wait. So Patty was telling him, you got somebody from the plant at the lowest level who created his own product because he heard you on the video. You need to make sure you talk to him. See what I'm talking about? You don't have to influence everyone. She put the call through. So he said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'm like, I did it. He's coming to see me in 2 weeks. Command and control goes into action. Protocol. CEO's office calls the president's office. President's office calls the senior vice president. Senior vice president calls the area vice president. The area vice president calls the director. Director calls the plant manager. The conversation was all the same. Who let the janitor call the CEO? Who's this Richard guy? It's a true story. About 20 minutes after I hung up the phone, here comes my plant manager. And he let me have it. He cussed me out. Now, I want you to understand, that was life in those days. Ask your dad. Ask your grandma. Supervisors used to cuss people out. But because you wanted your job, you could have took care of business there. Many times I wanted to. But that's not how we did things. So don't think like, oh, I would have punched them. That was the way of life in those days, okay? So I want to tell you, that's why I took it. I had something at home more valuable than hitting an idiot like that. So he says, who do you think you are? You realize what you've done? Everybody's coming now. Now I have to paint the place. He looked at me and he said, you're doing the presentation. I'm doing the presentation? I've never even done homework. See, the goal was, let Richard do the presentation so everybody can see he is below a C student. He's below average. And they'll fire him and they'll stop this nonsense. So I remember I went home and I was really scared and nervous, but it was a great job. And when Judy saw me, she could tell something was wrong. And Judy said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm going to get fired." And she said, "Why?" "Because you told me to call the CEO." Here's what Judy did. Typical leadership of a woman. She said, "Calm down. Cálmate. It's okay. We're going to go to the library and check out a book on how to develop a marketing strategy." True story. There was no Google. So we went and we got 3 books. And we took them home, and there was one book that I liked. I copied 3 paragraphs out of 1 chapter. Because it sounded like something a marketer would say. I didn't understand it. So I put it on transparencies. I went and bought my first tie for $3.50. This isn't it. I bought my suit from the secondhand store. I had somebody tie the knot the next day or the day before. That way I could just put it on. I did my transparencies. I bought some industrial Ziplocs. You see, I was the first to put something in a Ziploc, and people said, "You're crazy." Now you can't go to a store without seeing something in a Ziploc, right? That's why I'm the godfather of Hispanic branding. Because I opened the door for so many people, and I'm going to continue to open doors. So me and my family did 100 bags. We filled, and I'm a little bit of an artist, so I drew on the bag. Okay? All I had left to do was to seal it. How am I going to seal it? Innovation from the Latino. Innovation from the hood. How am I going to seal it? With the plancha. At the right temperature, it melted, it sealed it. Right, it didn't look like it was in the store. So we had an assembly line, my wife and my 3 kids. I got my transparencies and I'm walking out the door. Every time I speak, there's 3 things I want to do. I want to inspire you. The word inspire comes from the Greek and it means to breathe life into someone. I want to encourage you. To encourage someone means to take courage and put it in somebody's deepest being that they're never the same again. The last thing I want to do is I want to remind you. I want to remind you of who you are. I want to remind you of the value that you are to your family, to your community, to your company. Inspire, encourage, and remind. Where did I get that from? I got that from Judy. Because when I'm walking out the door, she inspired me. She said, "Richard, I don't know anybody smarter than you." And I was scared. Then she encouraged me. She said, "Remember what your grandpa and your dad taught you." She encouraged me. And then she reminded me of who I was. And she said, "You're a Montanez. You're my husband. You're the father to these kids. Go do your thing." She inspired me, encouraged me, and reminded me. Man, when you do that to people that you care about, when that happens, you feel like you can do anything. So I got to the plant, right? I got there in my lowrider. I'm a lowrider, okay? I got there bouncing in my lowrider. And everybody else pulled up in limos. So I walked in. Everybody was there. Chief financial, everybody. If you were a chief, you were there. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody that was there was a pharaoh. They were all mad dogging me. And I'm thinking, why are you mad at me? I'm trying to make the place better. I'm trying to save jobs. I couldn't understand. You see, it was a great idea. They didn't have a problem with the idea. They had a problem where the idea came from. You see, people know that you are brilliant. They don't have a problem with your mind. They have a problem with you. Where it's coming from. You can't let that stop you. So I got up, put my transparency, and I was nervous. I don't know if you've ever seen transparency, okay? This is your dad's generation. Guess what? It's upside down. I turn around, oh, it's still upside down. So I came on this side, oh, it's still upside down. Finally, I got it. I was like, oh, I was so happy I got it on there. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I was doing it. I was teaching them. They were listening. I had their attention. But I want to tell you this. Write this down. I don't care what room you're in. There's always somebody in that room who's going to try to steal your destiny. Your job is to be ready not to allow it to happen. I don't care what room you're in. There's somebody in there trying to stop your destiny. So all of a sudden, I see a hand go up. I know what that means. Question. You know what I did? Again, I'm just a kid from the hood. I turned around and I looked the other way. And the guy said, Richard, I got a question. I go, oh. First thing I thought was, Judy didn't get me ready for questions. So I turned around and I said, yes. He says, I have a question. And I really thought, I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have time for questions. He goes, it's just a simple one. I said, okay. He said, that's a great idea, but how much market share are we talking about? I almost fainted. Market share. We haven't read that chapter yet. So there was a door. I said, you know what? That's it. I'm out of here. I shouldn't be up here. I'm making a fool of myself. I'm looking ridiculous. Who am I trying to impress? Let me just get out of here. After all, I should have never been there. After all, I'm just an average person. Let's go back to the 60s. In my time, they used to bring 2 traders after school. They were reading program. One trader right here was for the Latinos. The trader over here was for the non-Latinos. And every Tuesday, I got into the line that I was told to get into. It wasn't my line of choice. They said, that's your line. So I got into. Guess what I did one Tuesday? I've been doing my whole life. You probably done it or you had to do it. Because I broke ranks. I went from the Latino line into the white line. You should have heard my friends. Ricardo, estás loco, you're in the wrong line. You know what was going to happen? It's going to be a beating. It's the 60s. My teachers are going to beat me for coming in this line. Those teachers are going to beat me for being in their line. That's the 60s. I was scared. Really was scared. It was one of the most fearful things I've ever done in my life. So I thought, when I go over, see, I love being Latino. But even if I did it, there's nothing I can do about that. Come on, you and I know we were born with these. Come on, you know that when we walk, we lean a little bit. Well, that day I tried to camouflage and I said, I'm going to walk straight. And I was scared. There was two beautiful blondes with blue eyes that teach you. And my friends kept calling me, "Estás loco, Ricardo, get back over here." I was scared, and I saw something in them. And I told them what I saw. You want to know? I looked in there and I told them, they have cookies inside. I'm going to get us some cookies. So I got close on them, man. Can they tell I'm not lying? I finally made it inside. You know what those 2 blondes did? They filled my pockets with cookies. Listen, that's why today when Judy catches me looking at blondes, they gave me cookies when I was little. It never worked. So you're wondering, what's the moral of that story? 2 parts. I'm going to close with this. Get a hold of this. You'll never be afraid again. Why did I break ranks? Why did I risk taking a beating? I was hungry. Hunger is the antidote to fear. When you're hungry for that promotion, fear will leave. When you're hungry to start that business, fear will leave. When you're hungry to propose to that person that you're in love with, fear will leave. I was hungry. Second part that they didn't tell you, that I'm telling you. There's a cookie that's been baked for you. Your job is to get out of that line they told you to get into and get into the cookie line. Get out of the poverty line, get into the prosperity line. Get out of the job line, get into the career line. Tell your children, the line is their children. How dare anyone tell our children which line to get into? Their choice. So back to that question, market share. Oh, I remembered the rats. And with the most ridiculous smile, I said, this much market share. And I could hear people laughing. Did he just say that much market share? But in a room full of pharaohs, there was one deliverer, and that was my CEO, and he was sitting right there. And he stood up and he said, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize that Richard just taught us how to go after that much market share? That ridiculous statement made me a legend of my company. And here's what I'm closing with. As ridiculous as I look, if you're not willing to look ridiculous, you will never achieve your greatness, because many times greatness comes in a ridiculous form. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.